Hello, my name is Kindschi, and I am an honor student at Marymount University, and this is my presentation on workaholism. This was my research topic for the past 3 months, and today I'll be talking about some background information, causes, effects, and how to combat workaholism. So let's start out with some background information. Even though almost 10% of the Western population are affected by workaholism, there is no clear definition of the term. So, what I took from my research is that it can be subcategorized into two categories. The first one is working compulsively, and the second one is working excessively. So, what does that mean? Working compulsively means being obsessed with work. Workaholics feel an inner drive to work at all times. And they also seek out work related tasks, even though there might not be any, just because they are so obsessed with work. And then working excessively means working excessively long hours. Workaholics don't just work the 9 to 5 hours. No, they stay longer and they work on weekends or they work over the holidays or on vacation. And then it also means that they are neglecting other aspects of life. Simply because they are working so much, they don't have time for friends or family or even their own health, like taking care of themselves. Unfortunately, they also fail to meet expectations, and not just their own expectations, but also expectations of friends and family, of being there with them and supporting them in what they do, and their company's expectations, even. But what are the causes of workaholism? So the causes can be subcategorized into internal causes and external causes. And the internal causes are mostly characteristics. Perfectionism, for example, is such a characteristic. For perfectionists, everything has to be perfect, right? They can't move on if there is something that isn't right about their work. And that can lead to compulsive behavior. They obsess over their work and over the little details that no one else would notice until they're perfect. It can also lead to working excessively because, you know, ironing out every little detail takes a lot of time. So you already see how this can lead to workaholism. But then the big five model of personality is also a contributor. What I saw in my research is that there was mostly two of the five character traits associated with the big five contributed to workaholism, or associated with workaholism, I should say. So, first of all, the five characteristics are openness, conscientiousness, agreeableness, extraversion, and neuroticism. But what I'll be focusing on is neuroticism and extraversion. So, extraversion actually is leading away from workaholism more than it is leading towards it. When extraversion is a prominent character trait, you are likely to want to leave the workplace and experience new activities with your friends or grab a beer or chat with them and socialize. You're eager to leave the workplace, not because you dislike work, but because you love the other aspects of life as well. You can detach yourself from work, which workaholics can't do. And then neuroticism, on the other hand, is associated with contributing substantial amounts to workaholism. Neurotics often feel insecure about their work. They feel like they haven't done enough, which is working compulsively. And they need to do more and they need to do it in a specific fashion. So that can contribute to workaholic behavior. And then the last point on internal causes that I want to talk about is psychoticism. So, workaholism is a behavioral addiction, just like smoking or drinking excessively. And for other behavioral addictions like smoking or drinking, psychoticism is a cause. However, for workaholism, psychoticism is not a cause. I haven't been able to figure out why that is, but I hope that in the future someone will. And then let's move on to external causes. External causes are a wide range of causes. It ranges from the culture, from crisis situations, all the way to the companies themselves. So the first thing I'll talk about is an overwork climate. Companies who provide an overwork climate essentially want their employees to become workaholics. Now, they might not want that consciously, it might be a subconscious thing, but it works like this. If managers and leaders of companies model that workaholism is a trait this company values, then employees will fall into that because they see that workaholic behavior will get them somewhere. And if they perceive that workaholism is wished for in this company, they will do that. And then it doesn't just stop there. Sometimes not just the companies contribute to workaholism, the culture does as well. I'm talking here about individualistic cultures in opposition to collectivistic cultures. So individualistic cultures like the US or Western European countries are very career-oriented. We put career before anything else, before family, before sometimes even our own health. This can lead to workaholism because we are so focused on our jobs. Now, collectivistic cultures, on the other hand, for example, Latin American cultures or some Asian cultures, are more family oriented. Family is the number one priority in their lives, before job, before anything else. So I'm not saying that there aren't any workaholics in collectivistic cultures. They're just less likely to fall into this work-only mentality. And then what I took from my research is that depersonalization will also lead to increased workaholism. So depersonalization means feeling detached from yourself. You think that work has already taken over your life, that work defines you. And you might think that you have nothing else left in life, that everyone is turning away from you, and that nothing else is really there for you. And that's why you jump even more into this mindset of, I need to work because work is there for me. So depersonalization, feeling detached from yourself, can lead to increased workaholism. And then the last point that is very prominent right now is crisis situations. We all know we're in a pandemic right now. COVID-19 is still present. And unfortunately, it does blur the life and work boundaries because we now often work from home. When we work from home, it is easier to go back at 10 p.m. and check your laptop to see if that email, if that email came in after all. When work and life boundaries are so blurred, it is sometimes hard to distinguish when we should be working and when we should not be working. And then what has also been found is that managers and freelancers, for example, who have had high job autonomy, so decision making, then that they experienced this abrupt change during the lockdown from high job autonomy to low job autonomy. So this abrupt change has influenced their entire structure of their life and their work life, and some just can't handle it that well and need to work now even longer and figure out how to work this new work life that they now have, that they might focus even more on work that they have already done before. And then let's move on to the negative effects of workaholism. I categorize them into 3 categories. The first one is negative impact on relationships. The second one is health-related issues. And the third one is the negative impact on companies, which might surprise a few of you. So the negative impact on relationships should be fairly clear. When someone does not pay attention to you at all and you think that they prioritize work over you, then eventually you will turn away from them. And that is when workaholics experience this loss or lack of support. When family turns away from you, that can break your heart. But because you are neglecting relationships, it is likely that your family or friends will do so. And then there is also a phenomenon called crossover spillover. So crossover happens within the workaholic, him or herself. It means that the stress they experience at the workplace crosses over into their personal life, having them stressed out in their personal life as well, even though there might not be a stressor in their personal life. It is only the stressor from work. But then what happens is that the person, the workaholic who is stressed out at home for no obvious reasons, his or her stress spills over into his loved ones and have them stress out as well. So what we now have is a workaholic being stressed out at work, and it influences his entire family or a circle of friends. So workaholism does not only influence the workaholic himself, it influences other people as well. And then we have health-related issues. There are physical ones and there are psychological ones. Now, the physical ones are mostly sleep deprivation and frequent migraines. And this can be due to the stress or due to all the other negative emotions that workaholism brings with it. And then psychological ones are loss of concentration, depersonalization, like I've talked about before, and emotional exhaustion, which is burnout if it goes on over a long period of time. Now, the psychological ones can be really straining as well. The loss of concentration might not be that obvious, but when there's so much going on in your mind, then at some point you won't be able to concentrate on your work because you think about your family that are, upset with you, and you think about your friends who you haven't talked to in such a long time, but you really should. And then you also probably have a headache because of the lack of sleep that you've been getting. So you see, it's all connected somehow. And then the negative impact on companies. Workaholics are not exemplary workers like we might think. They are often distracted workers. And this goes back to the health-related issues and the impact that workaholism has on relationships. Again, when there's so much going on in your mind, you have this loss of concentration. You are distracted while you are working. And that is when you start to fail to meet expectations that you've set for yourself and that your manager or the leader of your company has set for you. And that can be really frustrating. And then workaholics also contribute to negative work environment. Workaholics often do not like interacting with their colleagues and might even come off as hostile, which obviously at some point will contribute to this negative environment. When no one wants to talk to each other and when no one is willing to support one another, it only takes one employee that calls in sick to throw off the entire company and get them behind work-wise. And then let's talk about the solutions, though. There are solutions. So there are personal solutions and there are company-related solutions. And the personal ones are mostly psychologically rooted. You have to set the mind right first before you can change the behavior. So a study has shown that, through a case study, they have shown that MAT, meditation awareness training, is a very effective method to get workaholics to not only decrease their work hours, but also work less compulsively. They, by the end of the training, will be able to implement this training at the workplace whenever they think they need to, and they are able to detach themselves from work once they leave the workplace, and they'll be able to spend time with family again without constantly, checking their email. So this case study has been replicated on a greater scale after they saw the success with this one participant, and the same results have been shown on the greater study. And then the company-related solutions. I've already said before that workaholism does not only affect the workaholic himself, it affects everyone. So for companies, it is really important that they model healthy work-life behavior, that they set clear boundaries. From 9 to 5 you work, and after that you go home and you spend time with your friends and family. So when the leaders and the managers of a company model the right behavior, the employees will follow. And then it is also important that HR professionals and leaders of the company know the early signs and precursors of workaholism so they can do an early intervention if they see these signs in their employees. Because if they intervene right away, they can likely prevent emotional exhaustion and burnout within their company and among their employees. So, in conclusion, workaholism affects a lot of people, and it is necessary that we combat it. It affects not only the workaholics themselves, it affects the companies, their friends, their family, and their health. And not just the workaholics' health, but also the friend's health or the family's mental health. The causes are a wide range of causes, and there's no way that we can prevent those causes from happening, but we can prevent burnout among people by inter by early intervention and by role modeling the right behavior. And that is all I have to say for now. My references are at the bottom right corner, and if you have any questions, please post them in the chat and I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you for your attention.